Good morning, everyone. I'm Lamont Gilchrist. www.L.G.Fitness-Messiah.com is my webpage. L.G. Fitness-Messiah on Instagram, L.G. Fitness on Snapchat. Hit me up on Snapchat. See my day-to-day quirkiness and the things that I do preparing as I train people. I believe today is the 17th. It's Sunday. So I want to talk about some things because I've trained thousands of people and done thousands of meal plans and have thousands of consultations and done thousands of hours of research. So there's a research, and I want to talk about exercising versus eating versus calories in versus calories out versus aging. I know that sounds pretty complex, but I'm going to give you the rundown of it on a scientific level. So, and I'm going to use an analogy that you probably all can understand so that you can follow the research or follow the hypothesis or follow the theory that I know to be true as a scientist. So I'm going to use basketball players at the elite level, NBA basketball players. So if you watch NBA basketball players, and watch this and you'll see this, it's like predicting the future. Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is probably one of the highest energy players that I've ever seen. And I'm going to use him as my analogy and try to show you. So he has a high calorie output. He is also great genetics, probably one of the best athletes to ever play the game. But Russell Westbrook probably won't last as many years as LeBron James or somebody of that nature because of the way that he played, like an Adrian Peterson. So the harder you put out, the impact, the jumping, the other stuff onto your body, the more damaging and the more you won't be able to sustain that type of force or that type of play. So the only way Russell Westbrook is going to actually be able to be good as he ages is by just change up his game, work on his jump shot, pick his explosive moments, things like that. Another good example is Vince Carter. Another good example is even Michael Jordan. The reason why this happened, because after you peak in your athletic development or human development, somewhere in the 30-somethings, you start to go down. 20-something is when you probably peak at the end of 20-something, beginning of 30-somethings. You start to decline. Now, their mind or the ability or the things that they want to do hasn't decreased at all. They're as sharp and could play the game if they had the body that could hold up. What has happened is that time and wear and tear and rebuilding yourself has actually taken a toll on its body. Now, they could probably do it for 2-3 plays. They just can't go the whole game. They just can't recover fast enough on the in-between days of the playing days. They probably could do it once a week. They probably could do it once a month. They just can't do it back to back to back to back to back. That is the aging process. And regardless of whatever you do, the physical activity will eventually catch up with you, especially at a high intensive level, even lifting weights or anything else like that. Now, like I said, they can continue to do that for the rest of their life and everything else and stay in halfway decent shape. They just won't be as competitive. That's the difference between the youthful body growing up into a mature body, into peaking, into the down process. And during those times, during those 3 stages, in the growing stage, you get away with a lot of stuff. You get away with injuries. You heal a lot faster because the body is new. The organs is new. The body is able to repair itself. After all these toxins and after time and after so much stress on the body starts to break down. It's just like anything. Your car will start to break down as it ages because of the stress and the oxidization that's going on inside. Now, foods and things from a sports nutritional intake can help to slow down that process. That's why they take growth hormones and EPDs and stuff like that, because it helps with the recovery. And that is the most important part of it. For regular people like me and you, sleeping and recovering and eating well is the most important part of it. Then also just the actual the dynamics of the body, the muscle, the connective tissues, the tendons, the ligaments. You know, most of those guys go through major surgeries, major impacts, back problems, things like that, because of just the force of gravity and the force of bumping into things and just running into force. So Russell Westbrook, which is one of my favorite players from an athletic standpoint, I love watching him play like I love watching AI play, but they don't tend to last in those kind of things because their aggressiveness and their hard going is working against them. And if they don't conform to becoming jump shooters, turnaround shooters, spot up, 15-feet shooters, they can't sustain that level of play. Be it like Vince Carter had to change his game up as he got older from going explosive. That's the same thing with regular people. You have to change up what you do. People always ask me, they say, I was so active when I was younger and now I'm not as active and now I'm putting on this weight. Yeah, that is true. But also the activity level did plays a part in it, but it was that you were younger, so the body was absorbing things more. The body was more efficient. The organs was working more efficient. It was easier for your metabolism to stay up to cycle things through, to get toxins out. After a period of time of taking in particular things, it had made a wear and tear, or it has slowed down the process that your body is efficient. Now, that is something that you can control with your nutrition and your eating. That is something that you can control with the things that you take into your body. It's kind of hard to control it with the toxins that are in the air, the toxins that are in some of the food, but that's something that we all have to live with. Or the toxins during the medications that you put in your body, because now you have to take medications, which it is a toxin, and it will takes away from your body and it oxidizes things. But that is something that we can control. The activity level may not be as intense, but we can control the activity level. The one thing that we cannot control is the aging process and the steps that it goes through, from developing into a mature adult, peaking out as a mature adult, going into older age. That is something that time controls. That is something that man does not control, and we don't have any remedy, or we don't have any cure, or we don't have any way of stopping that process for the most part. So that process is always going to be that process. And so there's natural aging. So you have to understand what's going on inside your body. People like to try to group things together, and they don't want to admit to natural aging, especially when you're young and you think that you're invincible. But that is a process that doesn't stop. But what you can do is be the best you during all those stages of existence. Now, with the proper nutrition, proper exercise, not going too hard, proper biomechanics, proper things of that particular nature, for what it is that you are and what it is that you want to do, for what body style you want to have, is very important. And once again, I always say that there is no general standard. It's just like a general standard in anything, like a general standard in religion is terrible to me. Why is this terrible? Because throughout biblical, it was always particular to certain sectors of society, and prophets and other sectors use other things. Now, there is civilization, but from my perspective, fellowship with something greater than yourself is very personal. And you may share it in a small circle like your family and your kids, so that they may get the same blessings that you have. But when you put it on a mass scale, it becomes very radical, because a lot of people like to try to come up with the same collective ideology about the thing. Same thing would be any shape and nutrition. There is no collective ideology or answer to this problem, other than the foods are bad, the things that you take in are not healthy, the information is out there and you choose not to get the information. Same thing with like religion. People just go off of what other people say. They don't care to do the research or figure out what it is for themselves. And then the masses just follow where everyone else is going. Same thing in nutrition. So I wanted to break down these stages, because when I do consultations, this is like one of the hardest things that I do, is to explain people these stages and why their body is changing. And they always think that well, I stopped being as active. Yeah, that is part of it. That's only one part of it. You cannot stop the aging process. From the time that you are born, from the time that you come out the womb, you are in a deterioration, even though you're growing towards your end or your demise until you leave this planet. You know, you have a growth spurt, you have a stabilized spurt, and then you have a decline. Everyone goes through that. But it doesn't have to be as rapid, and the foods and the intake and how hard you go and the things that you do to your body, with the sports analogy that I just used, will determine how fast that decline is and how severe it is and how broken up you will be at the end if you're fortunate enough to make it to the end. You might speed up and take your days away just from lack of knowledge. So my name is Lamont Gilchrist. I just wanted to explain those stages and how it correlates in your life from athletes. And the reason why I use athletes and I use Russell Westbrook is because we're talking about best genetics, elite athlete, best of everything, and even he is going to be deteriorating and slow down. So if the best is going to be deteriorating and slow down over a period of time, what do you think someone who doesn't have the best and did never do these things is going to be doing? You are already started your decline at like 20 something. That's what's happening in society. Kids are starting their decline at like 15, and that's, you know, that's unacceptable. My name is Lamont Gilchrist. Thank you.